Be a good little fella now and open the door.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Welcome back to the 28 Days Marathon, and we're continuing the many adaptations of A Christmas Carol in our marathon, A New Remake. Today we're at part 2 for our marathon of the many adaptations of A Christmas Carol, and the versions I'm particularly going to talk about is a good one and a bad one. Let me get to the bad one first, this being Mr. Magoo. But of course, for a fact, everyone sorta has an opinion about Mr. Magoo. Either you like it or hate it. I'm sort of on the hate side. Mr. Magoo wasn't really that funny of a cartoon to begin with. All that it was about a guy who is particularly blind. He gets himself into some situations and he comes out of it alive. Where's the joke in that? It really doesn't work out too well. And seeing how this is, at least to some people, the first ever animated TV special, it's obviously the first pick for anyone to see on the holiday season. But of course, this film has been forgotten in time, because it's ridiculous. I mean, for one, Mr. Magoo is not really that funny of a character, though this is another one of these specials that actually does stick close to the novel. But of course, the one complaint I have against this is, I mean, obviously Mr. Magoo, he's not really that funny of a person, and besides that, I have a problem with one of the positive ratings that's on this DVD, where TV Guide says this: nothing quite approaches the charm and originality of Mr. Magoo. Originality of Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol? Are you kidding me? Has these people ever seen the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol? That's so ingenious! It's brilliantly done with a lot of great stage and settings and everything. I mean, everything about it is just visually good. And Mr. Magoo? I just don't think so. Yeah, because Mr. Magoo is just not really that good of a cartoon, and not really one I would want to see. It was good when I was young, but not good now. Alright, let me get to our next special, which is actually on this holiday DVD. I don't have the modern one because I've heard that the Blu-ray and DVD has a lot of restoration problems. On this DVD, Classic Holiday Stories, as part of the classic cartoon favorites, this includes another short in here, which I'll cover in my next marathon. Well, actually, 2 shorts. But mainly I'm here to talk about the first Disney adaptation of A Christmas Carol. What's it called? Mickey's Christmas Carol. Particularly, you have to remember at least seeing this once or twice in your childhood. Comes on every year during the ABC Family's 25 Days of Christmas marathon. Can't remember if it ever aired on Disney Channel or Toon Disney, but again, I was a young kid back then, so I essentially had the VHS and watched it every December. And maybe on freak accident New Year's Day. But let me talk to you about this. Ever since I saw this was my favorite. Before George C. Scott, before The Muppets, before Scrooged, there was Mickey's Christmas Carol. Particularly, this is one of my favorite specials to watch as a kid. Of course, there was the Rankin Bass specials. I mainly stuck to those. I've heard about, like, the Garfield Christmas specials, or maybe, like, the, Muppets, or maybe Heartwarming Eve. Actually, Heartwarming Eve didn't come out when I was a kid. Maybe Mr. Magoo, Legend of Frosty the Snowman. All those other specials. Of course, I would discover those later on in my life. But this one I saw the most as a kid. But what's so special about Mickey's Christmas Carol is they managed to squeeze the whole story in under 30 minutes. Sure, they leave out a few couple of plots from the original stories, like, you know, Disney's A Christmas Carol and George C. Scott's A Christmas Carol. Like, they had the certain plot where it shows the kid and where it shows, like, the young Ebenezer Scrooge in school and stuff. They cut that out. change the way that sort of like the mother and father, they show that, not the mother and father's my mistake, the Scrooge's love life winds up getting, well, wakes up with his girlfriend. I can't tell if it's a shortened version of the Ghost of Christmas Present, but essentially what happens is that the Ghost of Christmas Present, of course, is in the other stories, like, you know, George C. Scott and Disney's A Christmas Carol, is that essentially they, you know, they showed like the dirty little kids of need and want. Like, there was that in the film, but again, left out of this, to at least show the Disney characters, because of course every kid has to at least get started with A Christmas Carol with Mickey Mouse. Though the main focus of the story is not on Mickey as Ebenezer Scrooge, but more of Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer Scrooge, which I think that's a good idea for a story, but I just keep wondering why the title was left at Mickey's Christmas Carol. Probably a marketing strategy I could think of is that if you have your title as Mickey's Christmas Carol, you would be able to sell it real good. If you leave it at if you just leave it at Scrooge McDuck's Christmas Carol, then it probably wouldn't make the biggest of sense. But at least with Mr. Magoo, they got the title right, because of course Mr. Magoo is the focus. He plays Ebenezer Scrooge in the special, but again, who gives a crap about Mr. Magoo? All I can say is that Mickey's Christmas Carol was one of my favorites. It may have been a short version of the great Charles Dickens novel, but it was a good one. With surprisingly really good scores, great animation, perfect voice acting, and a real star-studded cast. Because when it comes to Christmas, I try to view this every year. But again, its availability can be found either on this Christmas classic favorite, on this classic cartoon favorites DVD, or you can find the new Blu-ray. But I've heard that there's some restoration problems. Either that or was The Prince and the Pauper, I forget what. But give yourself a chance to watch this. So, now that we concluded part 2 of the many adaptations of A Christmas Carol in our marathon, we're going to conclude with part 3 with our final 2 holiday specials. What are they? Find out tomorrow, as we finish a new remake as part of the Ferbguy's 28 Days of Christmas 2, The Saga's Electric Boogaloo. So long.